Hey everybody, I'm Aaron Simmons. This is Philosophy for Where We Find Ourselves, February 20th, 2024. Thanks so much for joining me today on the trails of life. I am literally out on a trail today and really appreciate you walking, talking, and thinking with me. Before we dive in today, I would love it if you check out my substack, Philosophy in the Wild, link in the description. I do 2 articles a week. They are a lot of fun, really give me the chance to unpack philosophical ideas in practical ways. And I would love it if you would think and walk and talk with me there as well. Now, there is a paid option, so if you'll get subscribed as a paid member, that opens up the comments section, it opens up live Zoom streams, and it provides access to exclusive content that is made available only to those who are partnering with me in that way. So please do check out Philosophy in the Wild, either as a free subscriber or a paid subscriber. I greatly appreciate it. Today, what I want to do is talk about a really technical idea in what I hope will be super accessible ways. The idea is Edmund Husserl's conception of phenomenological bracketing or suspension. It is sometimes technically referred to as the epoché or the reduction. And before my phenomenology scholar friends freak out, yes, these are all technically different ideas in Husserl, but we're going to collapse them all together to make a really important philosophical point today. Now, I'm talking about this because I recently met a new friend of mine. His name is Luke. He's working on a PhD in education. And he reached out to me because he's doing work drawing on phenomenology as a resource for educational policy and practice. He said that he's doing all of his work because he genuinely wants to help students where they are. And it seems to him that phenomenology makes that actually more effective. I think he's right. I'm super stoked about the work he's doing, a big fan of what he's up to, and I look forward to supporting him as he moves forward. Here's the idea. Phenomenology is a philosophical method devoted to inquiring into the first personal experience of the world as significant, as mattering. Now, we could say that in a lot more precise philosophical ways, but I actually think that definition does a lot of work for us. Because notice, it's first personal in the sense that we are taking seriously where we stand as we make sense of things. 2, it understands that the way we make sense of things is always something that is related and nested in our embodied location. The way that we navigate the world is actually opened by where we find ourselves within the world. And 3rd, what's really cool is this phenomenological approach actually is not concerned with trying to give some sort of objectivist account of what is the case, but it's instead trying to take seriously a radically humble view of how is it that we receive whatever we take from the world, right? Whatever we perceive, what we see, hear, touch, taste, experience, how is it that we take that in and make sense of it? Now, this phenomenological approach, no doubt, is daunting and intimidating to anybody who picks up Husserl's logical investigations or ideas. These are difficult works and difficult books. And of course, it doesn't get easier when you look at the people who appropriate Husserl, like Martin Heidegger, Emmanuel Levinas, and Jacques Derrida. We've talked about all these thinkers many times on this channel, and we will many, many more times in the future, I'm sure. But what I want to think about today is the first step of that phenomenological move. And Husserl says it's the ability to bracket or suspend what he calls the natural attitude in order to see the world as phenomenologists. Now, the natural attitude is simply the idea that we take it for granted. It's just there. And when we suspend this idea, we suspend all the theories that we ordinarily bring to things. We suspend or bracket our assumptions that we have about what things are in order to be opened humbly to what they might present themselves as being. Now, this idea really doesn't have to be as complicated as it often is made by phenomenologists. Think about it. What would it look like if we navigated the world with a deep sense of openness? We said, I actually have all kinds of biases, all kinds of assumptions, all kinds of expectations, and I bring these with me whenever I encounter other people, other situations or circumstances. But I actually can cultivate the lived practice of being aware that those assumptions do not have to dictate what I then see in front of me. This idea is profound when we put it into practice in this kind of educational model like Luke is. When I walk into a classroom, who do I see in front of me? Are these students simply numbers relative to standardized test scores that allow me to then move forward in my own career? Or do I see opportunities for transformation? Maybe I see people who are bringing their own circumstances and baggage in ways that I might miss if my assumptions about knowing their circumstances already override the openness I have to letting them present themselves to me. Now, an example of how this might work is thinking about stereotypes. Walter Lippmann defines a stereotype as a situation where we define something and then see it, rather than seeing it, perceiving it, experiencing it, taking it in, being given it in this phenomenological mode. And once we've seen, engaged, experienced, then we do the work of definition. Stereotypes flip that. Now, assumptions, stereotype, expectations, these are not bad as such, but they certainly can be limiting and problematic when we deploy them without being reflective about the work they do. So when we are in that classroom, says Luke, we are opened to all of these different circumstances and experiences in ways that actually are transformative to us and not only the students we encounter. I think that's brilliant. I sometimes do an example that kind of illustrates this point for my students myself when I'll play some sort of really hardcore death metal, and I won't show them the video of the band. I'll just say, describe the person you see singing this song. And of course, I get all kinds of different accounts. Big, tall guy, long black hair, wearing ripped jeans, tattoos, a safety pin through his nose, etc. Like they go to their assumptions, their stereotypes, their expectations of what it is they see in the context simply of what it is that they hear. Then, having written all of this on the board and saying, okay, does it describe the person you all see? And they're usually pretty similar in their expectation, what they see. Then I'll show the video. And I'll have played a band like Ginger or Arch Enemy, where the lead singer is actually a woman who is belting out unbelievably amazing vocals, but doing so with an embodied persona that is interruptive of their assumptions about what it is that they saw. Being open to being surprised by the other is something that Emmanuel Levinas names as the heart of ethics. So even though phenomenology is about description and being accurate in our descriptions of what we encounter, I actually think that there's a moral side to this that we shouldn't miss. When we are open to other people, when we are receptive to circumstances without letting our assumptions override and dictate what's possible in that moment, we become more aware of the possibilities for allowing others to find their voice instead of just imposing our own upon them. So today, maybe think about how we can bracket our assumptions, bracket our expectations in order to see the world in the way that it might give itself if only we were open to it. I hope this is helpful, complicated idea, but a really practical way we can maybe put it in practice in our own lives. Thanks again so much for walking with me. Check out my Substack. Please get subscribed, and I'll see you next time, unless a piano falls on our heads.